Hello, my name is Rick Bunch. I'm an environmental educator here at Lory State Park, and my cameraman partner here today is John Young, and so we thank him for being with us. We are part of a volunteer group here at the park called Friends of Lory State Park, and our purpose is to support the mission and education of the park. And one of the things that we like to do is bring school groups out and have community groups come to talk about environmental education and do science lessons. As I say, our purpose is wildlife, and I'd like to start off with asking a question. What animals do you think are here in the park? Right away we can dismiss two of the answers I usually get. There are no tigers in the park, and there are no dinosaurs in the park. So why are the animals here? Primarily because this is where there is food. And the other thing, of course, is there's shelter, there's a place for them to hide. Because of what they do eat, we can categorize them into three different sections. The first would be those that eat only plants. What do we call those? Of course, herbivores. And then there's the grouping that eats only meat. And what are they? You're right. Those are the carnivores. And then there is that group of animals that eats both plants and meat, and those, yes, would be the omnivores. So we're going to start first of all with those that eat only the plants. And one of the most common animals in the park that eats plants, of course, would be the rabbits. And they feed on the grass and some of the ends of the shrubs out there. And then the largest of the herbivores, and the one that would be most common, of course, would be the mule deer. The deer, and we have a hide here, and let me also say that we did not kill any of these animals so that we would have the hides, the pelts here to show you. We obtained these skins from the Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and they were the victims of accident, probably roadkill, and some of them perhaps simply died of old age. So the first animal would be the deer, and the thing that is probably most notable about a deer that you'd recognize right away would be the antlers. These antlers are made of the same material that your fingernails are. What's the difference between an antler and a horn? Well, horns would be on animals such as cattle, and those horns will stay with that animal for all of their life, unless, of course, the rancher saws them off. But the antlers for the deer, the moose, the elk, and so forth come off every year. And in January and February, these animals would lose their antlers and then immediately start to grow new antlers. They're used for a couple reasons. Number one, a male deer and the large adult deer will have the largest of the antlers, and those are attractive to the does or the females. But they're also used, of course, for protection, and the animal that preys mostly on the mule deer here in the park would be the mountain lion. Okay, so they're used for protection, but they're also used as they compete with other males for their mates, for the does. The next group of animals then would be the carnivores. And we'll start with the smallest of the carnivores in the park, which would be the bobcat. Nice soft fur, Bobcats prey on mice, birds, other small mammals like voles and the rabbits, of course. And we'll notice from the skull that their eye sockets are in the front of their head, front of their face. And that allows them to focus on the prey that they're trying to capture. But you notice also the teeth on this carnivore. They have large canine teeth, which are almost like fangs, and those are on the front of their skull, and those are used for killing whatever animal it is that they're going after. And by the way, we say killing, everybody has to eat, and it happens that these carnivores must kill their prey in order to have something to eat. Notice the back teeth then are also sharp, and that helps them in the chewing function. So that's the bobcat. Bobcats are also cousins of your cat that you have at home, your pet. And the other thing is, why do they call them bobcats? It's because of their tail that's short. It looks like it's been bobbed or cut off. And so those will be the bobcats. They mostly hunt at night, and so they would be nocturnal. And they're also about twice the size of your cat at home. Okay, the next animal then we would have that is a carnivore. It's the largest of the carnivores in the park, largest of the carnivores in Colorado. And if you'll look right over my shoulder here, it's a special treat because we have a mountain lion here. The mountain lion, and also like the bobcat, its eye sockets are faced forward so that it can actually look at its prey. And then also notice the big canine teeth, which are used for killing their prey, but also tearing the flesh away from its body. The mountain lion primarily, and 90% of its diet, feeds on mule deer. And because we have the deer in the park here, that means that the mountain lions have something to eat. They will also, however, if they can't get the deer, they too will go after the mice and the rabbits and other small mammals. They are unusually strong, and a mountain lion can leap as far as 30 feet. And so they use their stealth and their strength to capture the deer that they're going after. But also, and have a skin here, notice this long tail. And that tail helps them when they leap in their balance, helps them to keep their focus and their balance on what it is that they're trying to go after. But also, just like your cat at home, their paws have claws that retract back into their feet. And so when they're trying to capture something, those claws will come out. Both the bobcat and the mountain lion have the same kind of behavior as your cat at home. If you roll a ball across the floor, what does your cat want to do? It wants to chase and pounce. If you have a ball of string, the same thing. They would capture that string. And so if you encounter either one of these animals on the trail, you don't want to run because that looks like fun, and so they'll be chasing you. The last animal I want to talk about then is actually a carnivore, but it's not like any of these other animals. And it's one of the animals that we get asked about a lot in the park. It's the prairie rattlesnake. Rattlesnakes are known for their venom and their fangs, those two specialized teeth in the front of their mouth that act just like hypodermic needles. The poison glands are on either side of their head here, and when they bite, they bite down and they squeeze that venom through the fangs and inject it into whatever they've bitten. And of course, I said they're carnivores. They eat primarily mice, other small mammals. They eat baby rabbits. They eat baby prairie dogs. And that poison injected into your arm or your leg usually is not fatal, but you need to get medical help right away. The other thing about the rattlesnake, of course, is it rattles. And a lot of people feel that they can tell the age of a rattlesnake because it sheds its skin as it grows and expands. It sheds that skin, and it'll shed at least once a year. And so people think if you count the number of knobs on its rattle, you can tell how old it is. That's not always true, because as a rattlesnake is, say, close to a rock and it's rattling, and one of these knobs hits against that rock, it may break off. And so it's not always true that you can tell the age of the rattlesnake by the number of its rattles. The thing about the rattlesnake is that they are not aggressive. They will not chase you. They will not go out of their way in order to bite you. They would just as soon crawl off into the grass. So if you stop and don't get near it and threaten the rattlesnake, it's not going to harm you. The rattlesnake this rattlesnake in particular is born alive, and so when it's young, it becomes easy prey for birds and snakes like the hawks, mammals, and mammals such as skunks. And the skunk is not susceptible to the venom of the rattlesnake, and so those young snakes are easy prey for skunks. They hibernate in the winter, the same as the bears, same as animals that do hibernate. And so when it's cold, you'll not normally see a rattlesnake out. They'll come out in the spring then, and their babies, the young snakes, are born during the time when they're hibernating, just like the cubs of the bears are born while they're hibernating. It happens that there are a couple animals that you would not normally consider to be omnivores. We have these here in the park, would be the squirrels. And the reason they would be classified as omnivores, yes, they eat nuts, they eat berries, they eat fruit, but they also, the red squirrel also eats birds' eggs and maybe baby birds and maybe mice. And so that would classify it as an omnivore. The other squirrel that we have here in park is very special. It's a squirrel called the Abert squirrel. And notice that it's different. It has these long tufts of hair on its ears. And these squirrels live exclusively in the ponderosa pines. They too are omnivores because they'll eat the ponderosa pine seeds. They eat the bark, they eat the inner bark and the fungus on the inside there, but they too eat, well, primarily carnivore would be carrion, because it's the meat of an animal that something else has killed along the way. Okay, so now the largest of our omnivores in the park will be the black bear. And if you'll look up in the tree, we in fact have a black bear cub that climbs a tree. Now, both the adults and the cubs climb trees, and a lot of times the adult bear will climb a tree during the day and rest there and sleep. And we call them black bears, and you notice that the bear here is black, but not all of them are in fact black. We have one here that's almost blonde, and if you have a brother or sister in your home, and let's say you have dark hair and your brother or sister has blonde hair, why is that true? Your brothers and sisters, you're in the same family. Well, it's this thing called genes in your body. that controls things like the color of your hair and your skin and so forth. So, not all black bears are black. We have a skull of a black bear, and because it is an omnivore and it does in fact eat meat, notice it too has the large canine teeth in front. But now, because they also eat berries, they eat the plums in the park, they eat the cherries in the park, so they eat fruit, they'll also eat grass, and they have teeth in the back of their mouth that are flat, and that allows them to chew these things. So canine teeth in order to perhaps capture prey, but also the flat teeth allows them to chew. But because they are an omnivore and because they will capture small animals like rabbits and mice, notice that their eye sockets are also in the front of their head. I mention this because the deer, and we don't have a skull of a deer, but the eyes of the deer are on the side of its head, and as a result it can see about 300 degrees, but it can't really focus on something that is not moving, whereas the animals of prey, their eyes in the front of their head, they can actually focus on what animal it is or their prey that it is that they're going after. The next of our omnivores is a cousin of your dog at home, and that would be the red fox. And again, skull of the red fox, notice the eye sockets in front of its head, notice its canine teeth, but also notice that it has flat teeth in the back here, and that enables it to eat things that you not normally think of. Have you ever seen your dog in your backyard eating grass? Well, foxes will also eat berries, but they eat insects, they eat small mammals, mice, and so forth that they can catch. And notice how nice and fluffy the skin of our fox is, and that's probably an indication that when it died, it was in the winter, and it had this heavy coat that would keep it warm. And notice also that we have a red fox here that you can see over my shoulder. The next animal that we would have is also a cousin of your dog at home and also a cousin of the fox. That would be the coyote. And again, notice that the coyote skull is almost exactly like the fox skull. It's just larger. Eye sockets in front, large canine teeth, and teeth in the back here where it can chew whatever it is captured or whatever it is it's eating. Both the fox and the coyote are very adaptable, and there will be coyotes, of course, right here in the city of Fort Collins, but they will be in Denver, and they'll just be everywhere, and they don't mind being around people so much, and that's becoming a problem because we have incidents where the coyotes have started to get just a little too testy with people and especially your dogs. The next omnivore that we want to talk about would be the raccoon. The raccoons are interesting animals. They do eat fruit, they eat apples, they eat berries, but they also eat eggs, they eat baby birds, and as you probably well know, they like to eat garbage. And so we need to protect the raccoons by making sure that our garbage cans have lids on them that are tight so that the raccoon can't get in them. One of the characteristics of the raccoon that people notice is that they like to live around water. They eat frogs and they'll eat fish, They'll eat tadpoles and so forth. And people think that when they dip their food down into the water that they're washing the food. They think they're very clean. That's probably not exactly accurate, because the raccoon's front paws are very sensitive, and it's almost like the fingers on our hands. And what they like to do is take those morsels of food and feel around on it so that they can get the best tasting, those tasty morsels of the food. And so that's why they're dipping their food in the water. The next animal then that we have to look at will be skunk. And of course the first thing that comes to mind with skunks is, oh, the odor. They stink. Well, that's a defense mechanism for the skunk. They don't like to be bothered. Your dogs, people. And so if you encounter a skunk and it turns its back on you and sticks its tail up in the air, you probably better move, because they have a gland under their tail that has this oil that they spray, and that's what the stink comes from. But notice also that the skunk's skull, as an omnivore, has the same characteristics as all these other omnivores we've talked about. They will go after mice, they'll go after birds, and so their eye sockets are on the front of their skull, and their teeth, again, the canine teeth and those chewing teeth in the back of their jaw. So that gives you kind of a tour of the animals that we have in Lory State Park. We hope that this has been enjoyable and informative for you, but more than that, we hope you'll come and see us in Lory State Park so that we can talk about these things and show them to you out here in the park. So thank you very much.